The camera slowly pans over the cozy living room, sunlight streaming through the windows, casting soft shadows across the floor. The peaceful sounds of morning birds and distant laughter set the tone for a typical family day. In the center, your daughter sits on the couch, her eyes bright and full of innocence despite her disability. You, her parent, are nearby, ensuring she has everything she needs, preparing breakfast, or simply talking about the day ahead. There's a deep bond between you both, built on love and care, as you help her navigate a world that doesn't always understand her struggles. Visuals: close-up of your daughter's smile, showing a quiet strength despite her challenges. Shots of you gently assisting her with everyday tasks, showcasing a rhythm of love and familiarity, preparing a meal together, a hand on her shoulder for reassurance. The warmth of the home, with pictures on the walls capturing happy moments, reinforces the calm and normalcy of family life. The serenity of the scene paints a picture of hope and peace. For a moment, everything feels normal, as if the world outside is far removed from their little bubble of comfort. But beneath this calm, a storm is quietly brewing, ready to disrupt everything they hold dear. The scene shifts to outside the home, where the community atmosphere feels tight-knit and friendly. HOA Karen, the neighbor, enters the frame, walking up the driveway with a smile that seems friendly enough. She's known around the neighborhood as an authority figure, someone the community looks up to, someone who's always around, offering help or advice. She waves at your family, greeting you and your daughter with a friendly tone, seemingly harmless. She appears to be the model neighbor, the one who always smiles, who offers her assistance at every turn. Visuals: HOA Karen's friendly interaction with the family, her smile bright but her eyes cold, subtle hints of something darker lurking behind her pleasant exterior. A quick exchange of pleasantries, a brief chat about neighborhood events, but there's a flicker of something unsettling in the way she eyes your daughter. Her seemingly innocent nature is laced with a small, almost unnoticeable malice. The camera zooms in on her eyes just for a second, a quick flash of coldness that contrasts with her warm expression. The audience senses something off about her, though no one would suspect it just yet. This is the calm before the storm, and Karen's hidden darkness will soon be revealed. The camera lingers on your daughter, who looks out the window as HOA Karen approaches your front door once again. This time, there's something different in her demeanor, something off. She smiles, but it's colder, more calculated. As she enters, she makes a passing remark about your daughter's condition, veiling it as concern but dripping with judgment. "You really should watch her more closely. I'm just worried something might happen if you're not careful." The words hang in the air, a subtle accusation masked as advice. Your daughter, who has always been trusting, grows visibly uncomfortable. She shifts in her seat, her hands wringing in her lap. Her eyes dart nervously to you, silently asking for reassurance. There's a small pause, a moment of awkwardness where Karen's presence seems too heavy, too intrusive. Visuals: the shot focuses on Karen's eyes, cold and calculating, as she watches your daughter's reaction. The camera then shifts to your daughter's fidgeting hands, her discomfort palpable. The once warm atmosphere in your home starts to feel tense, suffocating. Every smile Karen gives feels like a hidden blade, sweet on the surface, dangerous underneath. Later, Karen leaves, but her words echo in your mind. Something isn't right, and you feel it. You try to brush it off, but the unease lingers, casting a shadow over the once safe home. The first seeds of doubt are planted, and it becomes clear that this isn't just a simple misunderstanding. Something more sinister is beginning to unfold. The tension begins to rise within the neighborhood, and HOA Karen's behavior escalates. What once seemed like isolated incidents becomes a pattern. She starts showing up at your house more frequently, criticizing the smallest things. Your garden isn't up to her standards, your driveway is a little too cluttered. The criticisms are never direct but always veiled under the guise of helpful suggestions. And with each encounter, your daughter becomes more withdrawn, her discomfort turning into outright anxiety. One day, HOA Karen approaches you directly in front of a group of neighbors. She accuses you of being neglectful, suggesting that your daughter's disability is a burden you're not properly managing. The crowd listens, some nodding along, others looking away uncomfortably. The pressure builds. The weight of their gazes feels like a public execution, your reputation and your daughter's safety now in question. Visuals. The shot zooms in on Karen as she speaks, her voice sweet yet dripping with venom, while the camera pulls back to show the judgmental expressions of the neighbors watching. The contrast between the warm, inviting neighborhood and the cold, accusing crowd adds to the rising tension. The visual shift from a peaceful community to one divided by suspicion is clear. Your daughter, standing behind you, looks at the ground, the shame of the situation too heavy for her to bear. Your instinct tells you that Karen is trying to manipulate the narrative, but the weight of her words lingers. You can't help but feel isolated. With each visit, she chips away at your trust in the community. The more she stirs up trouble, the more she distances herself from the group she once claimed to care about. Backstory of HOA Karen's personality and motives. As the tension builds, you start to recall previous interactions with Karen, ones that, in retrospect, felt off but were easily overlooked at the time. She had always been too involved in everyone's business, too eager to know the details of your life. There were whispers in the neighborhood about her controlling nature, her need to assert dominance. But it wasn't until now that you began to see the cracks in her mask. Perhaps Karen's motives weren't just about maintaining the community, perhaps she was obsessed with control, with being the authority on everything, including your daughter's well-being. Or maybe, just maybe, there was a deeper resentment lurking beneath her facade, a jealousy of the way your family loved and supported each other, the way your daughter had found strength in her circumstances. Karen, with her cold eyes and biting remarks, might have simply wanted to tear that all down. Visuals. A slow-motion flashback of Karen's past actions, subtle manipulations, sly remarks, moments where she exerted control in the neighborhood. The camera focuses on her eyes, showing her calculating, every move she makes carefully planned. The music in the background becomes more intense, hinting at the storm that's about to break. The rise of her manipulations feels like a creeping shadow, slowly engulfing the neighborhood. With the tension thick in the air, you begin to realize that Karen's actions are no longer just about minor inconveniences. She's after something much darker: control, revenge, or perhaps something more twisted. The calm of the past seems like a distant memory, as the storm clouds gather on the horizon, ready to engulf everything you hold dear. The morning begins like any other, with the sun barely peeking through the blinds. Your daughter is in the living room, playing with her favorite toy, and you're busy with housework. The quiet hum of the home lulls you into a sense of normalcy, but you can't shake the feeling that something isn't right. Outside, the sound of tires on gravel interrupts the silence as HOA Karen's car rolls up the driveway. You hear a knock at the door. When you open it, Karen's smile greets you, too wide, too eager. She carries a basket filled with what appears to be baked goods, a peace offering, or so it seems. She tells you she's just stopping by to check on things, offering your daughter a warm greeting. The smile she gives your daughter is almost too sweet, too patient, as if to lull her into a false sense of security. "I brought these for you," Karen says, her voice dripping with sweetness. "I thought it might be nice for you to take a break and relax, sweetie. I can take care of things for a bit." Your daughter, still unaware of the danger, smiles up at her. She's always been trusting, especially with people who show her kindness. But the air feels heavy with an unspoken tension, and you can feel it, even if your daughter can't. Karen gently guides your daughter to the side, away from your watchful gaze. She's pretending to be helpful, offering to take your daughter to the backyard for a few minutes, a harmless errand, at least that's what she says. You, thinking nothing of it, go back to your task, believing Karen is just being kind, as usual. But as the door closes behind them, a shiver runs down your spine. Something isn't right. The calm that had once enveloped your home has been replaced by an eerie silence, one that has you questioning everything. A few minutes pass, and the realization hits: your daughter isn't back yet. The unease turns to panic. You head outside, searching for them both. The front yard, the backyard, empty. Then, something catches your eye, the freezer door, cracked open slightly. The cold air seeping out sends an immediate chill through your body. You rush toward the freezer, your heart racing as you throw the door open. The sight that greets you freezes you in your tracks. Inside, your daughter is crouched, huddled as close to the back of the freezer as possible. Her face is pale, her breath coming in shallow gasps as she struggles to stay conscious. The cold has already begun to take hold of her, and fear fills her eyes when she sees you. Mom! Mom, help me! Her voice is weak, barely above a whisper, filled with terror. She's trembling, her body rigid from the cold, her hands clawing desperately at the sides of the freezer, as though she's trying to escape, but the ice has already begun to cling to her skin. Visuals: the camera focuses on your daughter's pale face, the visible frost collecting on her lashes, her hands trembling as she tries to pull herself up. The light from the kitchen overhead flickers, casting an ominous shadow across the room. The freezer door looms like a prison, its cold, metallic edges reflecting a chilling emptiness. The muffled sound of her cries is drowned out by the thudding of your own heart. For a brief moment, everything feels like it's happening in slow motion. The overwhelming panic grips you as you reach out to pull her from the freezer, but it feels like the moment stretches forever. Every second spent seeing your daughter trapped in this nightmare makes the weight of the situation feel unbearable. Her body is stiff, her face flushed red from the cold, and her lips have turned a bluish hue. She's shivering uncontrollably, but her eyes, they're filled with confusion, terror, and a heart-wrenching desperation. How did this happen? Why am I here? She gasps, her voice hoarse with cold, barely able to comprehend the danger she's in. It's as if she still can't wrap her mind around the betrayal, the fact that she's been locked in this freezing cage by someone she trusted. Your mind races, trying to piece together what happened. HOA Karen was supposed to be a friend, a neighbor. But now, standing in front of the freezer, watching your daughter fight for her life, it's impossible to ignore the truth: Karen never meant to help. She never cared. She used your daughter's trust to trap her in a situation that could have cost her everything. The camera zooms in on your daughter's pained expression, capturing the struggle in her eyes. Every desperate attempt to break free from the frozen grip of the freezer is a haunting reminder of how powerless she feels. The frost on the walls of the freezer glistens like a cruel reminder of the cold that's seeping into her very soul. The camera then shifts to your hands, trembling as you try to pull her free, your own tears mixing with the icy air. In the background, a faint noise catches your ear, the sound of footsteps. You turn, and there stands HOA Karen, her expression unreadable, her face devoid of any emotion. She watches as you struggle, her arms crossed over her chest, a faint smirk tugging at the corners of her mouth. "Don't worry," Karen says, her voice almost too calm. "She'll be fine. I was just trying to teach her a lesson. She needed to learn her place." The words hit you like a punch in the gut. It's all too clear now. The manipulation, the cruelty, the chilling calmness in her tone. HOA Karen never cared. She's enjoying this. The cold, calculated nature of her action sends a rush of adrenaline through you, and in that moment, everything changes. There's no going back now. You know what you have to do. The camera zooms in on Karen's cold, smug expression as she stands in the doorway. Her silhouette casts a long shadow across the room, adding to the chilling nature of her presence. As the camera cuts back to you, your face is filled with a mixture of fury, helplessness, and a mother's unwavering resolve to save her child. The tension between you and Karen hangs thick in the air, the betrayal hanging like a dark cloud. The icy coldness of the freezer wraps around your daughter, stealing her breath and freezing her movements. Her body is stiff, her fingers numb as she tries desperately to pry open the door that traps her inside. Each attempt to escape becomes more desperate, her hands smacking against the freezing metal, the sound echoing against the walls of the confined space. She bangs her fists against the door, but the cold numbs her limbs, making each effort slower, weaker. The freezer feels like a prison, and the walls are closing in. The shot focuses on your daughter's trembling hands as they pound the freezer door. The frost builds up on her fingers, her nails turning a dull blue. Her breath is visible in the air, a sharp contrast to the growing darkness inside the freezer. The camera lingers on her eyes, wide with terror, her mouth open as if trying to scream for help, but her voice is hoarse, barely audible. The light from the kitchen flickers outside, casting a cold, dim light into the freezer, highlighting the contrast between the warmth of the world she's been trapped from and the suffocating cold that threatens to take everything from her. Her attempts to scream are futile, her voice cracks with the strain, and her face contorts with pain. Every move she makes feels like an effort against the frozen, suffocating force that has her trapped. The cold is overwhelming, suffocating her, and she knows, deep down, if she doesn't find a way out soon, she won't make it. Her breathing is shallow, her chest rising and falling erratically, but she refuses to stop. Inside, she fights the darkness creeping into her mind, her body shutting down in the cold. Flashbacks of her past struggles play out in her mind, a life built on resilience, on finding strength in the face of overwhelming challenges. There were times when people doubted her, when they thought she couldn't make it. But here, now, trapped and freezing, she knows she's fought through harder things before. This fight isn't over. She won't let it be. Quick cuts of her memories, times she had fallen but gotten back up, moments of being told she couldn't do something, yet pushing forward regardless. The camera shows her face, tear-streaked, as she breathes heavily, focused. The shot freezes on a moment where she made it through something difficult, a race, a simple task, a moment of defiance, reinforcing her inner strength, the memories of those small victories giving her the courage to continue. As the flashbacks fade, the cold seems to grow harsher, but her resolve strengthens. The frost on the inside of the door mirrors the frost that has begun to settle within her mind. The more she struggles, the colder her body becomes. But with every ounce of strength she has, she refuses to stop, knowing that one more attempt might be the one that frees her. Your daughter's strength begins to waver, but she isn't ready to give in yet. Her breath comes in shallow gasps, a visible cloud of exhale that disappears almost immediately in the bitter cold. Her lips are cracked, and the frost has begun to coat her face in layers. She presses her back against the cold wall of the freezer, trying to conserve energy, trying to stay calm. Every inch of her body is frozen, but inside, she knows the fight isn't just physical. It's mental. It's survival. Close-ups of her face, the frost gathering on her lips, her breath clouding in the freezing air. The camera focuses on her eyes, tired, but sharp, focused on the task ahead. A tear runs down her cheek, freezing almost immediately as it touches the cold metal of the freezer. Her small frame shivers, her body trembling with every passing second, but she keeps herself still for a moment, trying to focus. She presses her hands against the cold wall, trying to gather warmth from her own body heat, even as the cold continues to invade every inch of her. Every muscle in her body aches, her joints stiffening from the freezing temperatures. She can't remember the last time she felt warmth. Her body is starting to give in, but her spirit doesn't. Stay calm, she tells herself. Just breathe. Each shallow breath she takes seems to bring less and less relief, but she repeats it, calm, steady. She can't let panic take over. She has to stay strong. Her mind drifts to thoughts of you, of your bond, of everything that's at stake. You're out there. She knows you'll find her, and that hope is the fuel that keeps her fighting. In a last-ditch effort, she leans forward, placing her frozen hands against the metal door, trying to push it open. Her fingers are stiff, her muscles are aching, but she won't stop. With every ounce of strength, she pushes. The door creaks, but it doesn't open. The metal protests, as if mocking her, telling her she's not strong enough to break free. The shot of her face is a mixture of exhaustion and determination. The frost-covered door is illuminated by the pale light, the shadows of her hands pressing against it. Her body shakes with the effort, her face flushed from both the cold and the pain. The camera lingers on her hands as they tremble, frozen and bloodless, clutching the door, trying to find some way to break free. The sound of her breathing, shallow and quick, fades into the background as the focus shifts entirely to her struggle. Her eyes, filled with a deep, quiet strength, never leave the door. She won't give up. Not now. Not ever. Despite the cold, despite the pain, she holds on to that final flicker of hope, the belief that if she just keeps fighting, she'll make it out. The house is quiet, too quiet. The usual sounds of your daughter's playful laughter, the faint hum of the TV in the background, are absent. Your heart skips a beat as you realize something isn't right. You glance around, she's nowhere in sight. Panic sets in as you call out for her, but only silence responds. You rush to her room, her toys scattered across the floor in a chaotic mess. It's as if she left in a hurry, but there's no sign of where she's gone. The sense of dread deepens with every second that passes. Your feet pound the floor as you frantically search every corner of the house, hoping, praying that she's just hiding or playing a game. But there's nothing. No sign of her anywhere. The camera follows your every movement as you move from room to room, the frantic look on your face mirrored in the shadows that stretch across the walls. Each empty room you check amplifies the terror building inside you. You stop, breathless, in the hallway. Something in the air shifts, something cold, something wrong. A gut feeling tells you where to go next. Your eyes narrow as you glance toward the kitchen. Then, like a bolt of lightning, it hits you. The freezer. With trembling hands, you rush toward the kitchen, your breath quickening as the fear of what you might find grips you. The kitchen is cold, too cold, even for a typical freezer. And then you see it. The freezer door, slightly ajar, as if someone had left it open in haste. A chill runs down your spine, and the sense of dread creeps up your neck, whispering the terrible truth, Karen. The shot zooms in on your wide, terrified eyes as realization hits you. The camera follows you, feet barely touching the floor as you approach the freezer. The light flickers overhead, casting dark, eerie shadows over your path. Your hands hover over the freezer door, frozen in fear, not wanting to confirm what you already know in your gut. Every step you take feels like a march towards something inevitable. The heavy air fills your lungs as you brace yourself. Your mind screams for you to stop, but your legs move of their own accord, driven by an overwhelming need to know. You pull the freezer door open with a sense of dread that grips your chest. And there, lying in the cold darkness, is your daughter, barely conscious, her body frozen, her skin pale and tinged with blue. The blood drains from your face as your worst fears come to life. She's shivering uncontrollably, her lips cracked and frozen, her eyes barely open but filled with terror and confusion. The frost on her face is a stark contrast to the warmth of your own skin, as if her very life has been stolen by the cold. She's barely breathing, her chest rising and falling in shallow gasps. It's clear she's been trapped here for far too long, each passing second threatening her survival. "Mom, help," she whispers, her voice weak and barely audible. Her words are like a knife to your heart. You drop to your knees beside her, your hands shaking as you gently touch her face, feeling the cold that seeped deep into her skin. The cold metal of the freezer seems to mock you as you struggle to comprehend what has just happened. Tears blur your vision, and a lump forms in your throat as guilt washes over you. How could you have let this happen? How could Karen, someone you thought you could trust, do this? The camera captures your face in raw emotion, shock, horror, guilt, and desperation all blending into one. Your hands tremble as you gently touch your daughter's frozen cheek, brushing away the frost. The camera pulls back to show you kneeling beside the freezer, your body rigid with fear and helplessness. The frozen interior of the freezer is illuminated by the stark light above, making the scene look even more surreal and horrifying. The camera lingers on your daughter's fragile state, her body shivering as you try to wrap her in your arms. The realization of the betrayal hits harder than any physical blow. Karen's cruel, calculated actions are clear now. She never meant to help your daughter, she never cared. Your daughter was nothing more than a pawn in her twisted game of control. The guilt intensifies as you try to thaw her out. You rub her arms, whispering soft words of reassurance, but deep inside, you know the odds of survival are slim. The cold has already taken so much from her. Time is running out. The scene becomes increasingly tense as you desperately try to bring your daughter back to warmth. You run your hands over her limbs, trying to revive circulation, but her body is like ice, stiff, unyielding. The coldness from the freezer seems to permeate every part of the room, adding to the overwhelming hopelessness of the situation. The camera focuses on the tears that fall from your eyes, blurring the scene, as your heart breaks for your daughter. In this moment, the reality sets in. Karen has crossed a line that can never be uncrossed. She's not just a neighbor anymore. She's a monster, and your daughter is the victim. The full weight of her betrayal crashes down on you, and the need for justice becomes all-consuming. You won't let her get away with this. The tension is unbearable. The air inside the house feels thick with the weight of the moment, suffocating you. You can still hear the soft, desperate gasps of your daughter from the freezer, but your mind is racing. Your body is shaking, your every nerve screaming with the urgent need for justice. You don't know how much longer she can hold on. But you know you need answers, and you need them now. The door slams open, and there she is, HOA Karen, standing in the doorway with that same, chilling calmness. Her eyes flicker, momentarily meeting yours, before she glances over to the freezer with a faint, unsettling smirk. Her composure seems unaffected by what she has just done. Is she okay? Karen asks, her voice so casually indifferent that it stabs at you like a knife. The words barely leave her lips before you explode, your voice raw with rage and fear. You did this. You locked her in the freezer. What kind of monster are you? You scream, every word dripping with disgust and disbelief. But Karen doesn't flinch. Her face remains cold, emotionless. She raises an eyebrow, as if your fury is nothing more than an inconvenience. She was getting too much attention. You're spoiling her, she says, her voice dripping with a condescending tone. I was just teaching her a lesson. She needed to learn her place. The camera focuses on your face, the raw pain and fury reflected in every feature. The tears, barely held back, well up in your eyes as you struggle to contain your emotions. You feel a lump in your throat, a weight pressing against your chest, but you can't stop now. The camera shifts to Karen, standing there with her arms crossed over her chest, the smug expression on her face like a mask that won't crack. Her coldness is almost unbearable. It's as if she's detached herself from any sense of humanity. Your daughter's shallow breaths echo in the background, the only thing that breaks the silence between you. You can't believe what you're hearing. This woman, who you once thought of as a friend, is now showing her true face. And there's no going back. Why? You choke out, your voice trembling. Why would you do this to a defenseless child? Karen steps forward slowly, her gaze narrowing as she speaks, her words chilling. It's your fault. You've let her get away with everything. She thinks she's special. I was helping her. Tough love. That's what she needs. Your heart hammers in your chest, and for a moment, you feel a wave of helplessness. But the surge of adrenaline that follows pushes it all aside. You take a step forward, hands shaking but determined. You've gone too far. I won't let you get. The scene shifts from the confrontation to a close-up of your trembling hand as you reach for the phone. You press the emergency number with urgency, barely holding yourself together. As you do, Karen smirks and turns on her heel, as though she's already won. The camera follows her, capturing her cold, calculated walk as she heads for the door, her indifference turning into an almost sinister arrogance. The contrast between her calm and your rising desperation is palpable. Your voice cracks as you speak into the phone. "My daughter, she's in danger. She's been locked in the freezer. Please, help us." Karen pauses for a moment at the door, glancing back at you. "You can't win," she says, her tone almost taunting. "You think they'll believe you over me? I've got everyone in the neighborhood wrapped around my finger. You're just a mother. You can't do anything." She leaves, the door slamming shut behind her with a finality that sends a cold shiver down your spine. The sounds of her footsteps fade, but your body remains frozen in place, a storm of anger and disbelief swirling within you. You barely hear the dispatcher on the other end, but the urgency in your voice pushes through. "Please, hurry," the world feels like it's spinning as you rush to your daughter's side, lifting her out of the freezer. Her body is stiff, her skin cold to the touch, but there's a faint pulse, just enough for you to cling to. You hold her in your arms, your mind frantically calculating the quickest way to save her. But the seconds feel like hours, and your desperation only grows. "Stay with me," you whisper through clenched teeth. "Please, stay with me. We're going to get you out of here." You cradle her fragile body against you as you rush to the front door. The freezing air of the house still clings to your skin, but it's nothing compared to the ice that has taken hold of your daughter. She can't stay like this. Every second you waste could be the difference between life and death. The camera follows you as you rush through the house, every step more frantic than the last. Your daughter's limp form in your arms is a stark contrast to your wild, urgent movements. The camera cuts to her face, her eyes are barely open, but there's a flicker of life, a flicker of hope. You look down at her, pleading with your eyes, as if to tell her that you're not giving up on her, no matter what. You burst into the driveway, your heart pounding in your chest. The cold night air bites at your skin, but it's nothing compared to the coldness that has taken hold of your daughter's body. You throw open the car door, sliding into the driver's seat with her still in your arms, never breaking your grip on her fragile body. You push the engine to its limits, the car tearing down the road toward the hospital. The camera shifts to the outside of the car, the headlights cutting through the dark night as you race against time. The city lights blur in the background as the urgency mounts. Your daughter's shallow breaths are the only sound you can focus on, each one like a ticking clock in the silence. You glance at her face in the rearview mirror, watching for any sign of movement. Her lips are blue, her body still cold, but the faintest signs of life keep you going. Your hands grip the steering wheel so tightly that your knuckles turn white. Sweat beads on your forehead, and your heart threatens to burst from your chest. "We're almost there," you whisper through clenched teeth. The words are a mantra, a promise to yourself, a promise to your daughter. The camera follows the car speeding through the streets, the world blurring around you. It's like the universe is holding its breath, waiting to see if your daughter will survive the night. The hospital looms ahead, the lights of the emergency entrance guiding you like a beacon of hope. The cold light of the hospital room flickers, casting long shadows against the walls. Your daughter lies in the hospital bed, surrounded by sterile white sheets, a breathing mask gently obscuring her face. Her body is no longer the ice-cold shell it once was, but the emotional toll of her ordeal has just begun. While her physical wounds begin to heal, the psychological scars left by the freezing, betrayal, and isolation remain fresh and raw. You sit beside her, your hand gripping hers, your own exhaustion evident in every movement. The weeks that follow are filled with moments of quiet despair, each day marked by your daughter's small victories in recovery, but also by the growing realization that the trauma she endured will not fade with time. She's withdrawn, quieter than before, her eyes often distant. She flinches at the smallest noises, the sounds of the hospital beeping monitors and staff moving about the halls, reminding her of the terror she's been through. The camera lingers on your daughter's face as she sleeps, her features relaxed for a moment, but a shadow of pain lingers in her expression. The faint tremor in her hands, the way she clutches the stuffed toy you brought her as a comfort, all show how deep the trauma runs. The shot shifts to you, your own face is haggard, worn, a mother's love tempered with the helplessness of seeing your child in this state. The tears you hold back reflect not only the terror of the past but the dread of what's to come. You try to stay strong, but inside, you are unraveling. Your daughter's therapist speaks with you in the hallway, explaining that trauma like this is not easily healed. It's going to take time, the therapist says softly. She needs support, and you need to be her rock. But don't expect her to bounce back quickly. This kind of fear, this kind of betrayal, it's deep. Those words haunt you as you leave the hospital room, staring at your daughter through the glass. You know that the physical scars will heal, but the emotional ones? Those will take years, if not longer. A slow-motion shot of you exiting the hospital room, your eyes locked on your daughter as the camera focuses on the glass separating you, symbolizing the emotional distance that has begun to grow between you both. The hallway lights flicker as you pass, a metaphor for the uncertainty and confusion clouding your mind. A soft melody plays in the background, creating a somber, melancholic atmosphere as you take the long, quiet walk down the corridor, burdened by the weight of what has been lost. Your daughter's emotional scars are not just hers, they're shared by your entire family. The trauma weighs heavily on everyone, shifting the dynamics in ways you never could have anticipated. The neighborhood that once felt like home now feels like a distant memory. Your family is torn between the desire to heal and the haunting reality of what happened. But with every passing day, you begin to realize that the healing process is just as much about coming to terms with the trauma as it is about moving forward. The battle for justice begins, not with immediate victories, but with determination. You can't just sit back and allow HOA Karen's actions to go unpunished. No matter how long it takes, you know this is a fight you can't lose. Your first step is to hire a lawyer, someone who understands the weight of what's happened and the emotional toll this case will carry. In your first meeting with the lawyer, you lay it all out. The freezing, the betrayal, the damage done to your daughter's mind and body. The lawyer listens carefully, nodding with a grim understanding. This isn't just a case of negligence, he says. This is a deliberate act of cruelty. We're going after her, and we're going to make sure she's held accountable. The legal process is slow, grinding, and often disheartening. HOA Karen's defense team tries to discredit your daughter's account, claiming it was an accident, a misunderstanding. They attempt to paint her as overdramatic, as if the trauma she endured could somehow be written off. Each time you face them, the pain of that day reopens a wound that you thought was healing. Weeks turn into months, and the toll it takes on your family is evident. You're constantly at the courthouse, meeting with lawyers, providing evidence, testifying, but there's always this looming sense of uncertainty. Is this going to be enough? Will the court see Karen for the monster she is? And even if they do, will the consequences truly be enough to make her pay for what she did? Your daughter's progress remains slow. Some days, she seems to make great strides, she'll talk about the things she used to love, the things that made her happy. Other days, she regresses, retreating back into the quiet, fearful shell she's become. But you remain steadfast, pushing forward for her, for the justice she deserves. The camera captures the long, exhausting hours of sitting in courtrooms, flipping through evidence files, meeting with lawyers. You stand tall despite the emotional weight you carry, your voice firm as you testify. The camera lingers on your eyes, filled with both rage and resolve. But as the legal battle continues, the strain begins to show. The camera pulls back to show your empty, darkened home when you return late from court, the silence echoing in the background. It's a stark reminder of the emotional toll this journey is taking on your entire family. Finally, after months of legal battles, the decision comes. HOA Karen is found guilty of child endangerment and emotional distress. The community, once divided, stands behind you, offering their support and regret for not realizing sooner the depth of Karen's cruelty. Visuals: the camera focuses on you as you stand in the courtroom, the weight of the verdict settling in. A quiet sigh of relief escapes your lips as you glance toward your daughter, who sits beside you, her eyes full of both confusion and relief. The camera shifts to Karen, who sits motionless in her seat, her face a mask of anger and disbelief. The quiet hum of the courtroom fills the silence as the gavel comes down, and for the first time in months, you feel a sliver of hope. The legal victory is bittersweet. It doesn't undo what's been done. It doesn't take away the scars that will forever remain on your daughter's heart. But it's a step forward, a moment where justice is served, and where your family begins to rebuild from the ashes of that horrific day. The journey is far from over, but for the first time in a long while, you can breathe a little easier, knowing that the fight isn't over yet. Your daughter, though scarred, is alive. And together, you will rebuild, stronger, united, and ready to face whatever comes next. The courtroom doors close behind you, but the weight of the battle lingers in the air. HOA Karen's fate is sealed, she is now facing the consequences of her cruel actions. The verdict brings a sense of finality, but not peace. Justice has been served, but the emotional scars of what she did to your daughter will never truly fade. In the days following the verdict, your family begins the slow, painful process of healing. The weight of the ordeal is still felt in the quiet moments, at the dinner table, in the stillness of the night, in the way your daughter's eyes, though brighter, still sometimes seem distant. The physical wounds have healed, but the emotional ones? They will take time. The camera captures the warmth of your home, a moment of quiet peace. Your family sits together, your daughter, still fragile but stronger, leaning on you, a faint smile tugging at her lips. You and your partner share a look of silent understanding, the years of struggle reflected in your eyes, but there's also hope. Hope for the future. The camera pans over your hands, interlaced with your daughter's, a symbol of the strength and support that now binds you. The shot shifts to a photograph on the wall, a picture of your daughter from happier times, smiling, carefree. It's a reminder of the girl she was, and of the girl she will become again. You all look ahead, knowing that the road to recovery is long, but together, as a family, you are stronger. The scar of betrayal will always remain, but with each passing day, you rebuild, one moment at a time, one step at a time. As the story draws to a close, your gaze shifts to the photograph once more. The camera lingers on it, a moment frozen in time, capturing the innocence of your daughter before the darkness descended. You reflect on the loss, the moments of peace stolen, the trust shattered, and the vulnerability exposed. But in the same breath, you reflect on what was gained, the strength you never knew you had, the resilience of your daughter, and the unbreakable bond of your family. What happened has changed you all, but it hasn't defeated you. In fact, it has made you stronger. Justice was served, but the true healing comes not from the verdict, but from within, finding the courage to face the future, despite the pain.